Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting of the Urbana Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Here.
Annie Adams, Shannon Baranek,
Here.
Kara Dudek, Cynthia Hoyle,
Here.
Audrey Ishii,
Here.
Susan Jones, Jeff Marino,
Here.
Sartak Prasad,
Present.
Nancy Westcott.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I had some questions and maybe a little information to share about the Equity and Quality of Life projects. I missed the last two meetings, so I didn't get to chat with you all about that.
So would you like to add that as item 3 under unfinished business?
Yes, please.
Okay. Why don't you make a motion to that effect? We'll
I make a motion we add Equity and Quality of Life projects under unfinished business. I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So the agenda's been, well, we don't need to approve it, but we approved the addition. Approval of the minutes from last week or last month. Were there any corrections? Audrey?
Was it decided that the Slow Streets project would be actively pursued or not actively pursued?
I think it was not. Was it? Oh, Annie's here. She'll answer that.
I think Nancy probably knows.
Oh, yeah.
What the last meeting, was it, I thought I heard that it would not be actively pursued.
It is on hold. Is that on?
Okay, that's under 7.
It is on hold.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
I
too.
wasn't here, but I listened to the tape.
Okay. Any other corrections?
Yes. So I said that the Campus Bike Center grand reopening will be Friday, September 17th, but I've been told there is a football game on 17th, so they have moved the grand reopening back to September 16th instead.
September 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be sure to put that in this week's minutes.
Oh, okay. I
We
didn't
can't-
know.
We
Like,
can't change
yeah.
the facts
Okay.
of what happened last month, but
Yeah.
other than that, we'll be sure to get it in the new minutes.
Okay.
So with the one correction on the slow streets, was that correct that you did mention that they were going to take out abandoned bikeways? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bike paths, because we talked about some other bike paths too, but that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, with that one correction, could we have a motion for approval?
I would just like to add, I emailed Sarthak about the bike paths that were being removed, and I don't know if you want to make a correction, but it was, I don't know if you can make a correction this way, but yeah. I was just, but anyway, okay, yeah, never mind then. I was just saying the bike paths are being removed, are part of the campus bike plan, that was all.
Okay.
It's really hard, it's gonna be hard for all of us with masks on, and you may have to talk a little, feel like you're shouting, and talk slowly, maybe. Mainly going slower.
Okay. Okay, Sartak, were you going to move approval of the minutes?
Yes. I mean,
I'll second.
How do I say it? The motion to approve the minutes. Okay. Yes.
Thanks. And Sue seconded? Oh, Cynthia seconded, that's right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Minutes are approved. Public input. We have someone from Via Ride, but they're on the agenda later. I do have a public input from somebody that didn't want to come and. I do have some public input from someone who sent me something. I'm going to go up there and present it. It's just a video of an incident on his bike, and I know some of the people here know who it was, but we don't want to really talk about who it was.
And I believe this was not an incident in Urbana, but in our community. Correct, Bill?
Yes, that's right. And I'll bring up a Google map and just show where it happened first. Google figured it out. Oh, maps. Okay, so it was on First Street, just on the edge of Savoy. Might be better with the picture. So recently, Google doesn't even have a recent air photo, but recently Savoy redid this one stretch. It's the one stretch of First Street that's actually in Savoy, and they put bike lanes on both sides, and then it narrows abruptly at this road here to a regular country road again. So it has bike lanes for about a quarter mile there. This person was riding north on First Street, and appropriately was on the edge of the stripe for the bike lane, even into the road a little bit, because he was getting ready to transition to the narrow country road, so he didn't want to get, cut off with the end of the bike lane there.
Bill, I think we should clarify it's a shoulder. It's not marked for
Oh,
a
okay.
bike lane.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not officially a bike lane, but it's wide enough to be used for pedestrians and bicyclists.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, because farther north it is a bike lane, but here it's just a marked shoulder. It's like a 3-foot shoulder, maybe even 4. So yeah, so really he didn't have to be riding in there. You never have
Right,
to
it
be.
wasn't even a designated
It wasn't
bike
even a-
lane, so
yeah,
there was no
designated.
reason for him to have to be on the shoulder.
And there's no audio with this, so you don't have to worry about the audio. The other thing I'll say, I like this video is because for those of you who are old enough like me to remember Highlight Magazine and Goofus and Gallant, there were these 2 kids named Goofus and Gallant in the comic strip, and Goofus was the rude, abrupt one that, would behave badly and interrupt and everything. And then Gallant was the one that did things correctly and politely. Well, first you get to see a Gallant. You get to see a Gallant passing here, and then you get to see a Goofus passing. So he's just riding along. He's actually probably farther over than I would have been. You don't have to be in that bike lane, and obviously it's not a bike lane now. So there was Gallant, passed at a reasonable speed, clear over in the other lane. Whoa! And that guy, yeah. I mean, that was, he didn't even cross the yellow line to give him a couple inches or anything.
But the car probably didn't know, car probably driving so, didn't understand that the bike lane ended.
Well, it's hard to say.
I'm not saying like that.
But eventually then he stops in the middle of the road up here. And you notice there wasn't anybody coming. There wasn't anybody coming, so there's no reason for him not to give him extra, no excuse really. So I think the person riding the bike waved or shouted or something like, give me some room. Didn't give me 3 feet. And then the guy stops in the middle of the road. And as the bicyclists come up, he starts going again. Then he decides, oh, maybe I'll just run him off the road here, and tries again. So then they stop.
Did he get his license?
Yeah, the license is real visible there. Then they have some words. And the cyclist said, I told him he didn't give me 3 feet. And his response was, I don't have to give you 3 inches. And you can see him hold up his hand in a second saying 3 inches. Says, I don't have to give you 3 inches. So there's some ignorance of the law here, and that resulted in a road rage incident. The video will end pretty soon, but what happened after this, the guy got out and came around and threatened to punch the cyclist, and that made him dodge and fall over, and he ended up getting several stitches on his elbow from really an assault.
The guy then took his bike and threw it.
And then threw the bike, yeah.
Yes.
So
And-
yeah,
and
it was
damaged it.
reported. The sheriff deputy came out and took the report. The car was registered to someone who didn't live in Champaign County. So when that happens, they can't go arrest him. They submit it to the state's attorney. The state's attorney's dealing with a lot of murders and shootings and stuff right now. So we probably won't see much happen with this, at least for a while, if ever. But at minimum, it's obvious that he passed less than 3 feet. And then you could argue there was definitely an assault there. So I just wanted to show that, one of the reasons why we like to have the 3-foot passing line signs and stuff like that.
Bill, I have a question. I know it's something we often talk about in this meeting, getting more accurate and updated accident information. I mean, I get, what? Crash data. I had a good friend who was hit and run over by the library, a pedestrian who walks all the time, so was in the hospital and other things. The police did come, so it will be recorded, but it's again something that, I asked him like what intersection. I guess the library might have gotten a video of it, but I don't know if it's the new infrastructure or if it's over. I don't know where it happened, and so it's just one of those troubling things where I feel like the sooner we can get, like if there was gun violence, we get data pretty quickly on where the gun violence was, and we try to figure out ways to, help people. I wish there was a way that we could get better crash data shared.
Car violence.
So that's just something, something I just want to add into there. And I know we keep asking for it. I'm sure sooner or later we'll figure it out, but I just want to say that.
Yeah, that would be something for a Vision Zero subcommittee to kind of focus on. I know most of us have done FOIAs. A lot of us have done FOIAs for accidents that we're aware of. You can always do a FOIA for the police report if there was one filed. And I did that for a pedestrian accident or crash out here on Vine Street. But yeah, that's what I'd recommend at this point. Maybe at some point we'll have more of a subcommittee.
Well, and then you were able to send a letter to the paper about it, with different messages for drivers and pedestrians. But I think we talked earlier about having some places have developed, as part of their Vision Zero, they've developed an interactive website that, well, not necessarily interactive, but one that posts the crash reports very quickly, just to keep people aware. And not the whole report, but just the pertinent facts, as far as I know. Although the reports are public, as Bill mentioned, you can
And actually,
FOIA them.
our new wiki maps that is part of the Vision Zero has an incident button. You can report an incident, so you could point someone to that and say, yeah, you can describe this and what happened as an incident on this map.
Yeah, it would be nice to have some official acknowledgement of these, because the media rarely, if ever, covers these. A hit and run crash where someone's injured and ends up in the hospital is newsworthy, in my opinion. but it doesn't get attention. And I know we've got, a problem with gun violence, which certainly has overwhelmed most of our resources. Nevertheless, this is sort of getting lost in the shuffle of everything that's going on. So perhaps that's something as part of Vision Zero we can work toward, is having that information shared publicly based on the crash reports. They are officially accident reports that are sent to the state. But that way we could have a better record for us to know. They wouldn't have to wait until 2 years down the road when we get the data back from IDOT. And that would be very helpful for our work in trying to help make our roads safer.
Yeah, and I mean, I've started screenshotting on Facebook. It's kind of the only way I can keep track of all the bad driving. I mean, there was one about people drag racing on Washington Avenue. People just got killed from drag racing, and so the Milwaukee police are aggressively trying to figure out ways to slow down vehicles. Another friend on Facebook got hit as well, and so it's just one of those things where it's like I feel like there's I agree. I think we just have to. I look forward to us finding a solution moving forward to better, more accurate data, because it can't just be people complaining. It has to actually be, real data.
Okay, let's move on with the agenda. So unfinished business, we have a update from Shay Balai. Okay, operations manager of VioRide. Welcome.
Thank you. Will it automatically go on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have it up.
All right. Thanks for having me. My name's Shay. Tell you a little bit about myself. I joined VO as the operations manager here in Champaign-Urbana in April of this year. My background, I am pursuing my master's degree in organizational leadership. Should graduate next May from University of Colorado Boulder. I'm married. I have 2 senior dogs. I love the great outdoors. Many of my hobbies include rock climbing, roller skating, gardening, camping, watching birds in my backyard, and writing VO. I just wanted to share with you where VO locations currently are within the United States. Everywhere from Chicago to Tallahassee, San Diego, Santa Monica, New York. We just launched the Bronx today, and Rutgers, Texas A&M is launching soon, as well as Colorado Springs. So just a little bit overview. I think we have around 35 different locations around the United States. So some vehicles that you know and love and familiar with. On the left, we have our pedal bike. And on the right, we have our Class 1 e-bike, electric assist bike. All right, so some of the other vehicles that VO has around the nation are the Astro scooters, which are up top. Those are stand-up scooters. On the bottom, they say, "Please help me up," in case they get knocked down, which I think is a little cute addition. On the bottom left, there are Class 2 e-bikes called our Cosmo E's. And on the right, we have our Cosmo scooters, which have been launched in several cities as well. So I'll just talk a little bit about the scooters, some benefits of our scooters over what the abilities of our e-bikes can do. Right now, our scooters our maximum time for turnaround on maintenance is 30 minutes. Right now, I've done as long as 2 hours to fix an e-bike. So that means more vehicles on the street for people to use. And we have a lot more control over what our scooters are able to do. So speed, we can restrict speed, we can restrict parking, and we can restrict by geofencing. And they're stylish, a little bit more sleek, and than our e-bikes and pedal bikes. Actually, on the stand-up scooter there are like multicolored lights. So gives you a little bit more visibility. All right, so a little couple pictures of our geofencing options that we have with the scooters that aren't currently offered with our e-bikes, such as low ride zones. So if there was somewhere across the town that needed a low ride zone, the vehicle would automatically reduce speed in that area. No ride zones, of course, is where we can geofence off, and when somebody releases the throttle, the vehicle turns off and they have to bring it back to the ride zone. We can also force parking, so the app won't let a user end the ride outside of the area. And restricted parking means that they can't park bikes in certain areas, or park scooters, I guess, in certain areas. It won't let them in the ride. So that's what the company has been doing the last couple of years. You probably haven't seen one of our reps in a couple of years. So things have advanced a little bit. So just a few numbers. Several of you have been on this committee for a while, but for anybody that is new, we launched here in Champaign-Urbana on September 1st of 2018. Since the launch, we've seen over 336,000 rides, which is pretty good. We phased out pedal bikes in 2019 around the time that we brought our e-bikes. I think there was some overlap there, but since our launch of e-bikes, we've had over 228,000 rides, with a total user base of over 20,000. So comparing when we launched to last month, we only had pedal bikes, of course, in 2018, but we had over 45,000 rides in 1 month, with an average ride time of 7 minutes and an average of 1,500 rides per day. Right now, of course, you'll see some impacts for various reasons in the past month and in the past year. Our e-bike rides for July are 7,300 with an average ride time between 8 and 9 minutes. Rides per day is about 240. We hope that increases now that the U of I students are back on campus. And our peak days and times are Thursdays from noon to 8. So I added a little bit of the yearly rides here. So pedal bikes over 150,000 that first year of rides. 2019, 106,000, and e-bikes, 129,000. There's a little bit of a dip after that. In 2020, we had 54,000 rides, and this year it's 44,000. So could be attributed to various things, and I suppose we'll see now that the students are back and riding what that impact actually means. So some successes and challenges that we're facing. We're going on our 4th year here in Champaign-Urbana. We're still excited to be here and happy to be here. We donate our bikes and services to community events. This year, so far, we've done the Juneteenth ride, and looking forward to Bike to Work Days, Light the Night with Sarthik on campus. But of course, some challenges. We have seen decreased ridership. Some difficulties in expanding vehicle options here. We want to build more healthy relationships with our community, so having more events or collaborating with other businesses. We would love to be able to get a multi-year contract here. And lastly, another challenge is the vandalism that we continue to see. So future of VO here in Champaign-Urbana, we are hoping for a single vendor multi-year contract. We'd like to bring scooters when we can. We would love to bring Cosmo E's or that Class 2 e-bike as soon as possible. Technically, with our contract with the city, we could drop those bikes at any point, but we'd rather get a buy-in from the cities and get an okay, so we're working collaboratively instead of just dropping and not having anybody on board. So I'm reaching out to city council members and trying to make connections there. But as everybody knows, there's a lot going on in our community right now. So
Can you explain what a Class 2 e-bike is?
probably. So if I don't have a really good answer tonight, I will get you one tomorrow. Yes, Miss Cynthia Hoyle.
Class 2 e-bike is a bike with a throttle. You do not have to pedal it. They are supposed to max out at 20 miles an hour, I believe. A Class 3 e-bike maxes out at 28, which is, of course, something we don't want on campus. So a Class 2 is definitely a throttle, and I can't remember, my concern is, I think I had this discussion with your folks before, is that the ones I saw there don't have pedals. So I don't think that legally they will classify them as Class 2 e-bikes.
The Cosmo E's do have pedals.
They do, okay,
Yes,
as long as they
those
have
they do.
pedals.
Yes.
You don't have to use the pedals.
Yes, so that
So-
was the issue that we ran into. Because our bike ordinance says that our definition for bicycles is it has to be human powered. So anything that's automatic or electric only or throttle only is considered a scooter. Yeah,
But
according
the
to
Class 2 is not necessarily throttle only.
Yeah.
It is a pedal bike as well.
uh,
The Class 3, I think all the e-bikes have to have pedals. I don't think
Yeah.
it's allowed to be classified under state law if it doesn't have pedals.
Yes, but there were some concerns. We ran it through the legal department, and they told us what I just said.
But the original bikes that he showed us didn't
Yeah.
have pedals. And so that clearly wasn't going to legally
So
meet the definition.
after that, they actually showed a bicycle with pedal, but
Mhm.
even after that, I went to the legal department, and they said no.
Well,
I was
you
like,
have
okay.
people on campus riding Class 2 e-bikes all over the place currently. Red bikes are Class 2.
Which one?
Red, they're very, very popular. I
Okay.
see them around all the time. They have a throttle.
Yeah.
They are Class
So
2.
again, the Class 2 e-bikes with human powered, that's only for renting. Like if you have your personal e-bike or a scooter, you're more than welcome to use it. But we don't allow vendors to have e-bikes or scooters to rent out.
Like a bike that doesn't need to be pedaled at all.
Yes,
Based on what?
based on the bicycle ordinance.
So why would the ordinance here there weren't even rental bikes when that ordinance was written?
Yes, but it was updated.
It was changed right after a meeting with the
Oh, I
OBI.
see.
Yes.
It was
has
changed
been,
overnight.
No, it wasn't changed overnight. It has been changed multiple times over the years. I think the original bike ordinance was developed in 90s or late 90s or early 2000s. There have been changes made in 2012, 2016, then 2018, and the last one was made in 2020.
You're
Well, I'm
talking-
sorry to hear that change was made. I wanted to ask, are you done with your presentation? I don't want to launch into discussion
Oh.
until you're done.
Oh, I was just gonna, just a couple more slides, but, yeah, I mean, I guess lastly, I was gonna ask the commission, where do you see micromobility and CU in 5 years? Where do you want to see VO in 5 years? And how can VO better serve this community? But yeah, discuss away, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
You
Okay.
skipped a slide? Was
I
there-
did. I skipped this slide, but I'm happy to go over it. So the future of VO nationally is that we're still dedicated to providing safe and affordable dockless mobility options to our markets and potential markets. Any new markets that we have are a mixture of scooters and bikes, or they're simply scooter markets. We're still maintaining a 50-50 campus to city ratio as we seek to expand and grow our markets. There are some vehicle innovations that are happening, such as creating a three-wheeled scooter and weather adaptable scooters. Different tech innovation that we are working on, facial recognition features, alcohol recognition puzzles, back-end improvements to better track battery swapping and technician efficiencies. That's on our part. And enable vocal navigation for our users as they ride. So people aren't like on their phone trying to navigate around. So
What's the facial recognition aspect, and why is it there?
I cannot remember.
Just to unlock.
It might be just to unlock, but I know right now they're working on a group feature which allows, so right now when you go to unlock one of our bikes, you can only unlock one bike that's tied to your account. So they're introducing a group ride feature where I could take 10 of my friends and scan all of their bikes and open them up, and they would all be allowed to ride on my account. It creates a little bit of other issues, but
Where would that information be stored? And like, there's so many privacy issues that I can think about, like with facial recognition. And
yeah, I don't have a lot of information about the facial recognition, and
Okay.
I can follow up with Ben.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
It would probably be a choice. The consumer could make a choice as to whether they wanted to be able to unlock it using facial recognition, just like you do with your phone.
And I know, like, right now they have a feature with scooters where you have to scan in your ID, your driver's license, to make sure you're of age to be able to ride them.
Other question? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just have a question about the fencing. I mean, I guess in some ways I kind of want to even back the conversation up further.
For sure.
Like, what's your understanding of the current agreement? And also just because I was a little confused, I rented one of these, I rented one of the e-bikes. It was fantastic. I've been
you.
riding bikes since ever, and I love bikes, and I was not expecting to love riding an e-bike. I thought I'd ride the e-bike and be like, well, this is dumb. And instead, I immediately started researching. Yeah, I'm gonna be buying 2 e-bikes in the coming year, like, no question. But what happened was I rode it out to Champagne's Carl in the Fields. That's where my hairdresser's at. So I biked out there, and that I didn't know how to turn off the bike. Well, so I was kind of an idiot that way. But also, I think I was out of the fenced area, and I was kind of surprised because I was like, but I'm in Champaign. I thought it was all Champaign-Urbana. So those are sort of I just sort of have some just sort of some user questions on that level.
Yeah, I don't think we have updated the geofencing in quite a while, and I know there have been expansions out to like Boulder Ridge, and I know I've picked up bikes there, and I'm trying to think, there was somewhere else north on Lincoln that I found some bikes. Yeah. So I don't know if that is just because they haven't updated our geofencing for the urban sprawl that's happening, or if there's certain neighborhoods like homeowner association neighborhoods who prefer not to have our bikes there. So it's a good question, and I can look deeper into that.
Yeah, I'd be curious because I would totally continue to rent a bike and go out there. It was so much fun. And because the other thing is, like, if there's 20-mile-per-hour winds, you don't even have to pay attention to it anymore. You can throttle, and you have to go over 4-lane highways. And I mean, it was a blast. It was
Thanks.
these bikes are game changers. Once people ride them, they're just game changers. But Yeah, so there, it's like Carl in the Fields out, there's a hospital out there, it's a hospital, there's a retail space, there's some living. I have this feeling maybe it just,
Yeah, I'm sure
I'll
that-
just be curious, because I would totally rent one again, but then I was like,
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
so that was my question, because I thought it just included all of Champaign, Urbana, but I couldn't write it out to like St. Joe's.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask about that I've actually heard complaints from people that there's a bicycle in Muhammad and come pick it up and stuff like
Really?
that. Yeah, there have been a couple of emails about that. I'm sure maybe you weren't here at that point.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah.
I've seen our e-bikes as far as Indianapolis and south. Yeah, they go.
I was just going to say, what I found, and when I was camping recently and I used e-bikes, I go further. It's just so easy and fun, and you're like, no, I'll just do another 20 minutes. And
Yeah,
that's
but
what I was
like
looking at your
100
metrics,
miles.
and I was curious about that, because your metrics showed that people, when they rent the e-bikes, go a little further. But yeah, this isn't getting us on the topic of actual implementable stuff to get more e-bikes, so I'll stop.
I had a question about costs. So if you don't have any just pedal bikes anymore,
Correct.
and those were kind of a low cost option, weren't they?
They were.
So what's the lowest price bike now?
So our e-bikes are $1 to unlock and 20 cents a minute. I think, I haven't asked about this, but I've noticed that there are low income options. So some people are marked as low income. I'm not sure what qualifies for that or how that's requested, but I think it does decrease the amount that they pay for those
And then,
rides.
With the scooters, in the markets where you have scooters, do they tend to allow them on sidewalks or
No,
not?
they're
No.
only on streets.
Okay. So whether it's stand up or sit down. seats
Correct.
only. Okay.
Correct.
That's one concern I think as BPAC would be we wouldn't want scooters to impact people's opinion of bicyclists.
No.
And if you start seeing bicycle-like things on sidewalks, then pedestrians will have kind of a bad reaction toward cyclists as well. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, no, they're only street legal.
Okay.
They tend to use the street because sidewalks are annoying. They go up and down, people are on them. I was just in Grand Rapids this weekend. They have them in their downtown now, and there were lots of people using them, and they have headlights. They were very visible.
Yeah, actually, our two largest cities that are doing the best with the scooters are in the Midwest, one in Cedar Rapids and one in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, yay, Midwest.
So it was my understanding years ago, and this was one of the reasons why I was curious about having you come in, is years ago there was the discussion of scooters and how it was hard to make ends meet. You are a company, you are not a non-for-profit company, you are a company that needs to make money.
Correct.
And so you're not doing this out of the goodness of your hearts, you actually need to make money. So one of the ways you can make money is with the scooters, and that the pedal bikes, and it's my understanding the e-bikes might be too expensive. So back then the discussion was just completely pulling VO unless you were able to get scooters or something else in the market, because you were unable to actually make ends meet just by having the e-bikes. And I know that in Chicago, when they introduced the Divvy bikes, they do have a low income option. So they worked with the cities, and the cities do have like some kind of low income. Yeah, and so there's a way to make it available, but that's like clearly impossible. I feel like a lot of our hands are tied until we have one vendor, and we're not trying to do this like multi-vendor sort of situation. And kind of, I feel like right now, to me, the situation feels like we're just hedging it. We have this wonderful thing, and we're just kind of like, well, it can just run on its own and do its thing, and and it's like, that's not a successful way to garden, frankly, is the way I look at it. Like, it's just not a successful way to build to build, I think, the kind of relationship we're looking for, so. that's
Yeah,
fine.
and I agree on that front, that I would love to expand. In several other cities, they have a great relationship with police, with the mayor, with the city officials. So if there's an accident or something, the police call the operations manager, and that vehicle may be taken in as evidence. So there's, it's wild in Cedar Rapids. My colleague Blake, he says on the weekends, they actually have, as soon as their truck comes out to do battery swaps, it's so popular that people line up at their truck to swap batteries. It's like a cool thing to do is line up for batteries. But yeah, he has a great relationship with the town, and I would love to be able to develop that kind of relationship here in CU.
And like, I know a lot of people who bike in those drive in from like Savoy, and then they park in those far off parking lots, and they don't want to bike to Green Street, where their office is. They would like to take a scooter, or they would like to take so to me, it's like just kind of frustrating that there's something people want, and I'm not exactly 100% clear why we're not allowing this to happen. So.
Yeah, I'm looking for that answer too. I'd like to address.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
yeah,
Cesar.
sure.
Jeff,
few-
did you have something? you
It
wanted-
was kind
Oh,
of,
sorry.
well, maybe along the lines of where Annie was saying, are most of the trips student-oriented, or do you see many trips from like low-income neighborhoods to like employment areas or anything like that?
I wish I could see the ride path of certain individuals, but I can only see a ride path of everyone at the same time. We do find a lot of bikes in lower income neighborhoods, and they take the best care of our bikes. I really love, I wish there was more bike racks to put there, because they're amazing. They do use the bikes this summer. I did notice that there was more bikes on the outskirts of town.
Like a certain percentage of bike rides are for convenience, I would assume, but another percentage may be commuting like to and from employers or work.
Yes, definitely. I know at least on the U of I campus specifically, there's a big parking lots near State Farm Center. Everybody's nodding, yep. And I know lots of faculty and staff park there, and then they bike to the office with our bikes or bike back. So you'll find a lot of bikes there in that.
There's
in that
also
parking
a transit node there, so there are people
Yeah.
who, they can also ride the bus, but, there are options for people there. It's multimodal.
lot. Definitely.
So, to answer the why we don't have scooters is, again, like, I think we have talked about this before. We, as the university, we don't feel it's safe to have the option, safe to have the scooters on our streets right now, considering you may have seen the potholes or the condition of the bike lanes, let's say, on Gregory Drive, when you're in front of the library, or you're on Pennsylvania, or we just don't feel that it's safe. One. The second option is the university allows bicycles on our sidewalks, all of our sidewalks. And again, if the scooters are on the sidewalks, it becomes very unsafe for the students. Just imagine 10,000 students at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. and adding a scooter there. They don't like bicycles at that time. So that's our main concerns. So one is safety. The second thing, as I said, is the infrastructure. We don't feel that our infrastructure is in the condition at the moment to handle a scooter option right now.
Yeah, Cynthia?
So you asked us your question was, what do we see for micromobility? What do you want to see? And so I would like to say that I think micromobility is key to providing a transportation system that works for everyone, particularly for our low-income folks. The data I have seen shows that the scooters in particular are very important in helping people access things that they need in lower income neighborhoods. The studies have been done in Chicago and other places, and Chicago did a rather extensive study and have now expanded their contract for scooters based on the results of that. And so I think micromobility is really important. 3 things. I would like for us to have a single vendor multi-year contract. We've not had anybody else come here and offer us anything. We need more bikes. You're limited to too few bikes now. You're limited to too few options in terms of the devices that are available. My concern is truly that we could end up with no vendor here because we make it impossible for there to be a profitable business model here. And so I think we need to reassess what our goals are for the providing micromobility and who we're serving and what people want. There's a lot of, well, the students don't like this, the students want that, et cetera. I haven't seen any data on that. I would like to see someone do a survey and get actual input on what people really want and need. I've been places where there are scooters and they have not been unsafe. Grand Rapids has horrible street conditions, I can tell you. And the scooters were all over the place and seemed to be operating fine. And, they tend, the other thing I think, based on what you're telling us, is that you could set the speeds lower for the scooters in the areas and at the times where there would be issues with them colliding with pedestrians.
Correct. That's correct. And
Yeah.
again, scooters are only ridden on the streets. So there
But
should be a
here-
limited collision with pedestrians, but yes.
Well, but here we have, we have the pedestrian scramble. Bicyclists are allowed to cross
Oh, yes.
during the pedestrian scramble. We're using, we have beautiful infrastructure on Green Street now, but the pedestrians are crossing. And if you're blasting through there, which some bicyclists do at 20 miles an hour, I've had people complain to me that they couldn't go 20 miles an hour on campus because pedestrians stepped in their way. I said, well, if you're going that fast, you should be in the street, not on the
Exactly.
bike path. So I think having that ability to set the speed lower would really address safety concerns. But I think we're sort of missing the big picture here. What are we trying to accomplish? Do we know what the market is and what are our long-term goals? And my long-term goal is to give people multiple options in mobility and to have a system that makes it safe and viable for everybody. And so I would like to see VO continue to work on those things. And in terms of better serving the community, I think if you could partner with a researcher at the university, perhaps, and have some analysis done of what the market is here, I think it'd make a great student project. I know in the planning department, there are faculty who specialize in transportation and look at micromobility, and I think that they would be quite interested in talking with you and perhaps designing a good survey and study. So I think we need more data, and then I
Great.
think we really need to ask ourselves what we're trying to accomplish. So that's what I would like to see, and that's not so many questions for you. I think most of those questions have been answered. Although, if we're going to have an event, do we just contact you about help with
Yes.
getting bikes there? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm now the primary contact. Ben, who most of you knew, Ben Thomas, he is still our regional manager. He's just now located in Ohio. He did say hello to let you all know. He said hi. But yes, and I can give you my email address. No problem.
Yeah, Shannon?
I just want to say, and of course Lily's on vacation today. She was actually working on a scooter option. It was not with VO. I'll be upfront with Bird. However, Champagne's Ben Leroy got real busy, and I know you work for Champaign. There's just no one over there with staffing ability to work on it. The university had their restrictions, so it was dropped. Like with just Urbana on board, it really didn't have the traction. So, you know, and of course, little.
We're not getting in the way.
Yeah, Urbana was on board. So,
If I recall, Ben Leroy had mentioned that part of the option was to geofence so that the scooters couldn't go into the university district.
yeah,
So-
they could. The bird ones, I'm not. The VO ones probably can too. Basically, down Green Street, down Florida, down Springfield, because those are Urbana streets. Keep it off campus. So, I mean, if VO has an option too, that might be something because U of I is the lead on the VO contract now.
It's not finalized yet because I haven't heard from Champaign or Urbana yet.
Well, Lily just went on vacation like right when that got sent to her. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, geofencing them out of campus doesn't make any sense. It's a major employer in the community, and that's where people need to go. And so I don't know how that would work unless, of course, I guess what you're saying is you could restrict it to Urbana and Champaign streets.
Basically, you could like a right street through the university to like say Lincoln. You could only do it on Green Street. You couldn't like veer down Matthews or up Goodwin. You would have
So
to stay.
university streets wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, that would be viable because I think people could work around that.
Yeah, we just have to consider the MTD buses going in like on Green Street as well. But that's a different thing. About the single vendor thing, we discussed this last month as well. Again, we had reached out to Champaign about single vendor. They said they can't do it. We had reached out to MTD after that, and MTD said no. And with the university's policies, I'm not 100% sure because it was, I think, before me or something like that. But I can check. However, I'm pretty sure it will be very difficult.
Yeah, Urbana may have the same. We can't, since they're not a sole source provider, we have to allow
Yeah.
for more than one vendor.
Yes. And
Well, perhaps you could help share with us how other cities have done single vendor contracts. I think that might be useful information. If Cedar Falls, Iowa can do it, maybe that's something that we could look at, how that worked.
Sure. I don't have that information for you today, but I can
Sure.
and will send it to you as soon as
And
possible.
and MTD is not one of the contractors, so MTD's opinion about it.
no. So we had gone with with Champaign, Urbana, and university's approval. Ben had reached out to Carl at MTD if they can we can do an RFP of some
Oh,
sort.
you mean having MTD be the contractor?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my understanding that they agreed and they were on board for a while, and then the pandemic
Yeah.
hit, and then they were not.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Something like that happened
Okay.
last year.
Oh, now I understand. Yeah, well, okay, got it.
I still have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
So when VIA had just arrived, there was a membership option with a monthly membership, 6-month membership, and 12-month membership. But that was just for pedal bikes. Is there a plan to bring membership for e-bikes?
I am unsure. I
Okay.
doubt it, but I can ask.
Okay. And the second thing, do you want to explain the end of ride, the new end of ride thing that Ben Thomas was talking about, or?
Oh, yes, but you're going to be sorely disappointed. Sorry,
Okay,
I'm
so
so
I'll
sorry.
just I'll just talk about that.
So,
Yeah, so last one, this is just approved today, I just received the signature from Ben today, that from this month on, once the contract is finalized with everything, the end of ride for VO bikes will be a student or a user will have to leave their bicycle to a bike rack, take a picture, and upload it on VO app.
okay, so
there is going to be, the first violation will be a warning, the second violation will be a $25 fine, third is 50, and fourth is membership is canceled. As far as I remember, that's what we had discussed.
So,
Yes.
I reached out, sorry, Sarthak. So I reached out to, because I had the feature turned on and I wasn't seeing photos. So I reached out to our programmer and he said it's impossible to do on e-bikes. That there is no technology for the e-bikes for the photos when they're parking and locking.
Okay. You
So-
might want to talk to Ben Thomas.
He knows.
Today, because he just sent the signature for the amendment of contract
Okay.
today. Like earlier today, he did that.
We
So-
we had a conversation yesterday.
Yeah, you need to talk to him
Okay.
because that has to be it will.
For sure.
So I'm confused. Is this something ViaRide wants
So
to track their bikes? Or is this something U of I insists on because they
no,
want
we did not insist on that.
Whose idea is it?
So it was the concession agreement that VO has with the university or had with the university until last year. We have to renew it every year. It had geofencing in the bicycle regulation clause. Like there was a thing where
Yeah, I
you
remember
only
that.
have to do.
I'm asking
yeah.
who's, so somebody wants
So-
a bicycle on a bike rack? Is
Yeah,
that
so,
thing? Okay.
yeah, they said in the concession agreement, and we do want them on the bike racks, yeah. That would be the best thing, like if, so in our conversation last month or 2 months ago with VO Ride, or VO, we talked about the concession agreement and this clause itself, and VO said that we cannot do that. This is what we can do, and that's why it was changed. And if it is not possible, then we will have to make sure that it's correct in the amendment.
Sure. So, yeah, so some of the main issue that's happening on campus is that people are leaving bikes in the middle of sidewalks. So people of all abilities are not able to transfer through areas that have bikes blocking the sidewalks.
Yeah,
Which
and
is,
not just that, like there have been several ADA ramp blocking incidents, exit door blocking and stuff like that.
so what we're doing right now is sending violations to people, and he's correct that the first violation that gets sent is just a warning, and the second is a $25 fine. So I'm doing a bunch of tabling. First one's this week with Sarthak on Friday, and we'll be doing a lot of education to the students that show up there. I've also posted online. Yes.
So what I just heard was that when you get off a bike, you have to take a picture of your bike.
Yes, forget all of that.
Thank you, because that makes using the bikes really cumbersome. If you're in a hurry, I mean, you're just going to knock your usership levels way off if you do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop and take a picture of the bike every time I get off. Just not going to happen.
Sure.
I think that's again that was something that was that Ben had mentioned in the meeting when we were discussing the concession agreement and everything. But I think with scooters that option is available and they do use that. Like,
Yeah, that's correct, especially if that's what, in the agreements that are made. And the reason for that is vandalism. So the thought behind it is that if we know that the person who had the bike last parked it in an appropriate spot, it's unlikely that they then launched it off a balcony. So,
Well, I will say that moving the pedal bikes was not hard. You could pick them
Correct.
up, move them, but I have tried to move one of your e-bikes when it was parked in a bad spot, and that is not that easy.
all you need is two. All you need is you and a friend, Cynthia.
Well, right, but I mean, it's not as easy as picking up a pedal bike.
That's correct.
And so I would think that the incidence of the bikes being moved around would not be as high.
I wouldn't say that's correct.
Really, people are still moving them around when they're locked?
Oh, yeah. Or if people leave them unlocked, if somebody else leaves them unlocked,
Like I did.
Oh, they can do that.
like Miss Annie Adams.
But there's no bike racks near my house, so I wouldn't have been able to rent the e-bike. I would have had to walk a long way to find a bike rack to.
Oh, this is solely on campus.
Uh-huh, okay.
Yeah.
And so so Sarthak, I guess my question is I know we're like the University of Illinois is big on data, and I'm curious if the choices that are being made about scooters is based on data, and then the other data that I've been trying to get the university to present is we had some goals initially of when we brought in these bikes was to save the University of Illinois money, because every year the University of Illinois would go around and cut bikes off of racks. At the end of the school year, I actually saw 2 students buy heavy-duty locks, lock up their beautiful bikes and leave, not realizing that they would get cut off in the middle of summer. But one of the reasons to bring in VO was to cut down on people buying basically what you call a burner bike, or buying bad bikes, and then just abandoning them. And so those are sort of been my questions for the university that I haven't been able to, I know it's scary that
Yeah.
students will get injured, but,
So, to answer that, unfortunately, we don't have that data because VO came in September of 2018, and by that time, most of the students who had gotten their bicycles, they were already there. And in 2020 and 2021, we did not actually do a sweep. So we don't have that data with us.
and then do you have comparable data on other university towns that have, I think most cities have similar road situations that we have going on, with like accident rates and other things
I don't have that data.
yeah.
What other university towns in our area have scooters?
There's some Big Ten towns, College Park in Maryland, Rutgers,
Bloomington, Indiana was on there.
Bloomington, Indiana is one, College Station, Texas A&M. Let me see.
Okay. Well, that'll give us some to kind of reach out to our connections there and do some web research, see how well they're being accepted and if they're having problems with them, I guess.
And I guess I also want to really reiterate what Cynthia said. And so like when I rode that bike out to Champaign in the Fields, people had no idea that these bikes even existed outside of the university community. And so I really think there is a ton of potential if we can get over this, I think you can have 500 bikes or something silly. There is going to be a ton of potential in the community in all sorts of income levels to ride these bikes and use these bikes. But right now, all I tell people is I'm like, you can go to the university and test one out. That's all I got.
So one of the things that I did whenever I came aboard with Rio this year was try out different hubs in Champaign and Urbana. Where can I put bikes in towns? And it is very difficult. Again, creating partnerships with different businesses. I had no idea that the park districts of Champaign and Urbana were separate entities of all of their own. So I thought, in parks it would be a great idea. And that did not turn out well for me because they are privately owned. Okay, public but separate. Okay. So there's a couple places in downtown Champaign I've put bikes, but Urbana has been really difficult for me to find a place where I can put 10 bikes because there's not a big parking rack anywhere, which is funny because we're so bike-centric in Urbana.
There was a giant blue bike rack that was in downtown Urbana, but we will talk about that in future topics.
Have you ridden through downtown Urbana? Because there's a
Still
big blue
there.
bike rack.
It's there.
There's a big blue bike rack in downtown Urbana. I heard it was destroyed, and so I was getting really
Oh, man,
upset.
you just made her day.
Woo!
Where is this bike rack?
It's in front of the Crane Alley. in that
Oh, how
area.
funny.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was a big old birthday present for Annie. There's a lot of bike racks at the library.
Yes, I do park them there, but they don't like more than 6 bikes at a time. They'll
Well,
call
they've
me to pick
got
them up.
mostly empty bike parking there, but yeah, okay, I got you.
They get ridden a lot because there's bus stop. Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
thank you. And I'll get back to you on some of your questions. And I brought some VO swag for you all, if you'd like to take a bag. What's that? Yes.
Feel bling.
And I'll stay if anyone wants to talk afterward.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, next is the Vision Zero update. Cynthia?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to do any visuals with this, but the wiki map is up on the People for Safe Streets website. It's operational, and Bill and I met with the mayor and talked to her about sending the letter out to invite people to serve on our, we didn't know if what we're going to call it, steering committee. She was going to do some investigating into which terminology best serves the role that we're asking them to play. And also to help frame it, as a safety issue, saying that we're not asking them to do a lot of work, but we're asking them to participate, to offer us their guidance and input. Because she said people are stretched so thin right now with the other big issues going on in our community, that she was afraid that if people felt that it was going to take a lot of time, that they wouldn't be willing to send a representative. So I felt really good about the meeting, and we talked about having the meeting twice a year, and getting the partners in and getting that started, and at some point doing a press release to let people know that we've got the map. Also, I'm going to be expanding it to Champaign sometime in September, because we're going to use it for Walk and Roll to School Day as well. So
Can you use a different instance of the map with a different branding?
I'll have to ask about that to see, because I don't remember how our contract works with Wikimaps. And I'll ask Jason if he remembers. If not, I can get in touch with the guy, the staff person that I was working with, and see if we can do more than one. That it would be nice to have that option so that we could post that on, the Safe Routes to School website. It would be nice. We could also put it on People for Safe Streets, but have it be a separate page.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
yeah, that's
I
a good
added
question.
a few things to the wiki map today anonymously. So
Well, you can do that.
it was fun. I liked it. It was really easy to use.
It is.
So I think once we get more on there, it'll be fun to comment on other people's editions too.
We don't have comments.
No,
You can't
There's-
comment on other people's comments, but you can like them. Or you
Oh, I
can
see.
make your own comment, but you can't comment on someone's comment,
Ah,
because we didn't want people arguing and calling each other names.
okay.
So we set it up so that you can make your own comment. I guess you could make your own comment and attack someone else's comment, but it would be an original comment, not a comment on a comment.
You'd end up with 10 dots on top of each other because people were adding.
You know,
their own.
I've used this instrument before, and that really hasn't happened. Most people don't want to spend the time. So they'll just go, oh, I agree with that, and I don't have to comment. Yay, I like it. And then they go on. So that then you get comments with a whole bunch of likes, which helps you know that there were a lot of people who had the same issue, concern, like, whatever. Yeah, it worked pretty well. So let me, so the question was, can we do a separate one?
Cynthia, will there be a rollout for that when people know? Or, I mean, is it like?
That's why we were hoping to do some sort of press release and get a little media attention. Yes, so we would like to do that.
I wonder, maybe for Bike Month, could we generate a QR code and put it on some of the printed material?
We
for
could do
Bike
that.
Month?
That would be cool.
Yeah, and we've talked about having something about it there too. We could make a poster perhaps. So that might be helpful. So I feel like we're making progress. It's slow, but it's been steady, and that we're still moving forward. And I think it is problematic for us in the sense that the community isn't really completely aware of how often there are hit and run crashes because the media doesn't always pick it up. If it's a fatality, then it's there, but happily we haven't had any of those in quite some time. Any other questions?
Well, Cynthia, if and when you're ready to roll out some stuff, I'm happy to make some graphics or design
Thank you.
something or
Yeah.
help out any way I can.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Now the equity and quality of life discussion, did you want to?
Yeah,
you
I
brought-
had a couple of questions, I guess. Having done similar sorts of things, and I liked what. Thank you, Barb, for sending me the. I guess that Carol shared this last time as sort of a idea, and I liked the idea of the scoring system looking at physical safety and personal safety and socioeconomic data. But it was confusing to me as to there has to be signatures from residents on an affected block. And so that implies that a neighborhood would ask for this. And of course, the neighborhood's not going to have any of this data. So they're not. So how do we, there has to be a separate kind of form that you would give out to the public to request a project? Or are they going to propose a project to the neighborhood and then ask them to get 50% of the neighbors to sign off on it?
If I remember correctly, Nancy, I thought this was something you talked about, was that one suggestion we had was that people can propose projects and maybe after that we start trying to get signatures and move things forward that way. Was
Well,
that?
you have to
Do you
have-
remember that, Nancy?
We also talked about a potential two-step process where you might submit proposals initially and staff or BPAC, whoever ends up doing it, will whittle them down. And then for the second step, people could, one of the ways they could show support
Okay.
is to go out and get signatures.
Well, in order for people to do that, I think you have to have some criteria. And so I started trying to dig through all of the things that I have, the tools that I have. And what I brought tonight was a copy of sort of a walkability, say if it was a walking issue, you could do one for biking. Just so that, they could say, this is what our problem is, and, these are what our concerns are. But for staff, I brought this along, a complete streets design checklist, and I was going to pass this around to Shannon and Carol that, it's asking for a lot more data. You've got to have, for example, if someone wants a sidewalk, you have to know whether you have right of way. And, there are just things like that for choosing the projects, you've got to have a whole nother set of criteria.
Well, the draft that's actually my draft that I wrote all over, so sorry about that. That's only the first run. Carol is still working on it. She's going to present more next month.
Okay.
So this is not the final be-all of, and it will likely have to have some kind of committee that looks at the project because
Sure.
Tim and I were talking about this because, like, from an engineering standpoint, anything less than $100,000 is not a capital improvement project. And if you have like $9 million, $10,000 projects, that takes up so much
Staff time. Yeah.
and outside engineering. It actually eats more funds than say $100,000 projects.
Right.
So
No, I
there's
completely
gonna be waiting
understand.
and judging and yeah.
No,
I
I,
think city council also gets to weigh in, so.
yeah, I know you're looking at a multi-step process, but that, when I really liked some of the scoring system that she had here, or you had, whoever put it together. And I think those are really are good metrics. And there were two things that are missing that I think are really important. One would be, is it on a transit route? Because there are places where we have no infrastructure for bus riders.
I
And-
would posit that MTD should probably pony up some dollars on that one.
Right, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that could give it points. That would be something that would get extra points. And the other criteria I think that we should have points for is it in an existing plan?
Well, if it's an
Because we
existing,
have all these things already in plans.
well, if it's an existing plan, we probably wouldn't take the equal money to do it. We would keep it in that project or whatever. That way, the money can be spread farther.
Well, there's existing plan, like.
That
bike
we have
plans,
no
and
money
then
to
there's
do any of it.
capital
Oh, you
improvement
mean like the
plan.
actual bike plan, not plan, like project plans?
Yes.
Yes, like, but like, say someone like, say Bill's like, I want the ramp outside the city building fixed. Well, that's already on our sidewalk list, so we wouldn't take
Right.
the equal money to do that
No,
because
It's,
that way.
you know, our list of projects in our pedestrian plan and our bike plan that we have no money,
Yeah.
they're unfunded, we have no money, we're not
Right.
in the capital plan at
But
this
we
point.
also want to have community buy-in, so like, we can't just as BPAC be like, we need to follow the bike plan 100%. So I mean, we do need outside help too, like.
Sure, absolutely, but I'm saying that you could give it points for it being in an existing plan. It's already been vetted as something that is needed and has gone through a public input process, 'cause
Right.
all of
I
our
mean, we
plans
do that
did.
with projects. I mean, we do check, like when I did the Vine in Washington, like I made sure there wasn't stuff in the bike plan that was supposed to be included. Like we do actually
Right.
vet that
Right.
with the project.
And
So-
that's, I thought it could get a point for being in the scoring system for,
Well,
and
what-
that's typical for how these sorts of scoring systems, like for complete streets
Right, but if
go.
you're just a sidewalk ramp on a plan as opposed to an actual project that connects a plan segment, like that's, I don't think it should get the same amount of weight. Like, because like the same, we tried for the AARP grant, which does little, like, put a bench here or there, like, so like say we put a bench in that just happens to be like on the green loop, that's not really part of the green loop. But if we did like, I'd say like 100-yard section of the green loop, that would definitely fit with what you're saying, so.
Right,
Well,
right,
and
I got you.
I think it would be worrisome in that we're trying to make a bold new statement about equity that maybe hasn't been addressed in the past. So where I think those plans could come in is a tremendous asset to help people visualize what they might want. I don't know if it should get, if we should then, you know, put our finger on the scale because it was in a plan, but it could be great in terms of providing these visions to the neighborhoods that are proposing this or whoever's proposing it. Because it's really, I mean, it, on the other hand, though, it might be all the more significant, but adding points per se, I'm just not sure. We're trying to make a turn into something new here, I think.
Well, funding what we've
I-
got in the plans
yeah.
would be new.
I think there's a lot of unfunded stuff that will never be funded. So if this is an opportunity to fund something that's needed and is equitable and being proposed.
Now,
as
Right.
an
like the
equity
Baker's
project.
Lane path that IDOT rejected would be a good example. Like it is in a lower income census tract. It does connect Washington and Maine, which is a necessary connection for pedestrians and bicyclists.
Yep,
So like that would
absolutely.
be, in my, because I'm very biased because I put it together. To me, that's a great project. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you can certainly, I think we're going to be playing with the point system as well. And so, you know, you can decide priority of how you would give points. And, you know, being in documented lower to moderate income areas, you would give more points, significantly more points to, right, than being in a plan.
But also keep in mind that we can very much be overridden by city council.
Right,
I do have that fear with traffic commission. It does happen. So like we could have something we love, has all the points, and city council could say, yeah, we like this over
Sure.
here better. So
yeah,
it's-
yeah, I got you. All right, that's all, since I didn't get to be here, you know, I
And
watched.
Carol will will tentatively scheduled for next month.
Oh, great,
So-
okay, yeah, that would be great, and, yeah, I was going through all of the, I mean, there are lots of, point checklist systems for like complete streets projects, that communities have used, and some of the more recent ones have included, equity issues in them, which I think in the past hadn't been, included, specific, issues related to that.
I mean, even IDOT revamped the ITEP grant to include equity.
Right. Yeah, New Jersey has done some really, really good work on that because they have a researcher at Rutgers. He came here to speak once, George Brown. Charles Brown, that's right. Charlie Brown. And, yeah, he doesn't, that's not really his favorite thing, but,
I just have to say Carol was here like last meeting and we kind of did the random BPAC talking and I just said, welcome to BPAC. I just said,
but
welcome.
anyway, he's done a lot of research on the needs of and desires of people in low income and minority communities, and found that some of the myths we have about them not wanting infrastructure, et cetera, are inaccurate. It's really fascinating research, and that has been sort of incorporated into New Jersey's work on complete streets. So it's a model to look at. I didn't bring it tonight because it's a really long checklist, and I thought, wow, that's you know, a lot to look at, but it's something that you could take a look at just in terms of pulling criteria out of it that we might want to utilize. So that's the only thing I had. I don't want to take up any more time on that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, reports of city officials, staff, and committees. Anything we haven't covered yet, Shannon, you'd like to report on?
Hold your hats. Lincoln Springfield will be starting in the next month or so. We got our pre-con meeting on the 30th, so I would suggest not driving, walking, biking, or doing anything through that corridor if you can avoid it, because it's going to be under construction.
And how long will that take?
The tentative plan, weather permitting, contractor material permitting, because materials actually are proving to be an issue, like our lighting project. Get the concrete done by winter and pave next spring, and then be done with everything by June. But that is, we'll see what happens, because COVID likes to throw monkey wrenches in all of it. So,
And it'll be open all the time?
yeah, there will always be one lane open each direction.
Okay.
Good.
So, it won't be, barring emergency, there will never be full lane closures, so, or full, like, road closures. There'll be lane closures, just not, you can't go this way, so.
Who was the contract awarded to?
Open road, same one doing, University.
Okay.
But they are also subcontracting out to A&A Concrete and Cross Construction, so a lot of local players besides just the big one, so.
And is university scheduled to get paved this year or next year?
They've got the stationing marked out, so I'm assuming they're gonna be starting pretty soon to do the milling at least, so.
Okay.
They,
I
well,
know
they
there's
have to be
been a
done by
couple of
November,
crashes.
so.
There's been a couple of crashes, one involving a bus at Broadway and University.
It's,
Nothing too serious yet, but
yeah, that's, if you
I know
want to-
someone who got in an accident at Lincoln and University. I mean, it's
yeah, I think the fact that the lights, there's minimal stoplights and they aren't on the close side, they're on the far side. So I think it's just a little weird for people, and sooner we get that better, the better. Any updates on the 3-foot passing signs?
No updates.
No update on that, okay. How about the website? Anything?
We got a grant from Washington City Council for 20 grand to redo the website, but that will be a third party, so.
But how about the updates I sent after the last meeting? Can somebody make those?
We are attempting to, there's been some issues with permissions and who does what, and so it is being worked on, but it is, not quick, so.
I updated the members and their terms on there. I
In
think
the,
that was an issue that somebody had, so
Yeah, the
those are
document,
updated.
I saw the document had been updated, but the listing on the landing page, that still has,
And
you can't change
none
that.
of us at Public Works have access to that,
Ah.
but I think that they're in the process of updating that so that we can have more, as recording secretaries, can have more control over updating those lists that are there. So
Okay,
that's coming soon, I guess.
Great, thanks. Okay, oh, yeah, Sartha.
I just wanted to ask, I've been asked by a couple of people about the Green Street pavement from Wright Street to Goodwin. That's an M-Corp, like the markings are almost all gone.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, the
we
markings.
repainted that 3 times. It is in the process planning painting project, but barring some miracle paint that doesn't exist yet, we cannot get those lines to stay. I had someone ask me too, like, they actually asked me, why'd you remove the lines from Green Street? I'm like, we didn't, they just wore off. So it is on our radar. My tech does have his painting project he's putting together, and it is one of the streets that will be in that project.
Do you have like a timeline?
Nope.
Okay.
Because he's in charge of all of our ongoing maintenance projects, so he's got quite a bit to do. And we did just hire a new stormwater tech who will be taking over for Beth Ranke when she retires. He doesn't really have anything to do with transportation, but we did at least hire somebody, so we weren't down yet another person. So
And Shannon, you had a survey out on Florida Avenue. Did that work out well?
that
That's
is through
RPC.
That is through
It was RPC, it wasn't the city? Okay.
Yeah, because
All right.
we got grant money to fund them to do the study. I imagine Ashley will have a meeting with me and Tim, I think in the next 2 months. I can't remember the timeline. So they're going to put together all the data. Ashley's very good at putting together data. She's amazing. Because she took all the data I had for like traffic counts and all that whatnot from historical knowledge. That's also included in all of that. And once we have that, we'll go through it and determine a course of action. So,
And I can also say, I know people at the university are returning to work, like my office did return to campus, but it's actually going to be a hybrid environment. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of pass-through traffic dropping off on certain days. So I think that's good news for Lincoln Avenue when you do that heavy infrastructure there.
Okay, thanks, Shannon.
oh, and I just want to add, the U of I paints the crosswalks on Green Street. It's some weird agreement that I just learned about last summer. Yeah. So that's why the crosswalks, you can see those. Because the U of I paints them like once a month. So,
And Shannon, did you say that Big Blue Bike Rack is on Main Street again?
yes. It's been there for a couple
Big
months.
Blue's there.
A couple months?
Yep.
I haven't.
it.
I've not seen it.
And is it on something, or because it was my understanding that it was maybe going to be put on something so it could be easy to remove, or is it actually just in the old spot it
It's in
was
the s-
before?
Well, it's not the exact same spot, but it's right about that same location.
And it's just drilled into the ground, right?
I think so. I don't, operations, I think, put it
All
on, I'm
right,
not sure.
cool. That's exciting. No, I haven't seen it. All right. Well, shows how much I go out.
Okay, we don't have any new business today. Announcements? Anyone have announcements? Yep, go ahead.
The campus bike center grand reopening is going to be on Thursday, September 16th, instead of September 17th, as reported last month.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's one announcement. Bike to Work Day and Light the Night are on September 14th. That's a Tuesday. Bike to Work Day, we have 17 confirmed stations across Champaign County. 9 of them are on campus. It's from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Registration is it is active. Like we are going to make it more like visible. We'll post it soon. It is it is active though, and that's for, registration for Bike to Work Day. For Light the Night, again, it's from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Cynthia, can you confirm? I think there will be a bike rack demonstration there this year as well.
That's the plan.
Yes. And
You said
the bike rack demonstration
For-
on
for
a
the,
bus. On a bus.
buses,
Yeah.
MTD buses, yeah.
Yes. What else? There was one more thing I was going to say. Oh, the volunteer sign up. The volunteer sign up is available. It hasn't been posted on eWeek or other newsletters just yet. I'm hoping to get the volunteer sign up go in this week. this weekend.
Did you send that to Thomas to post on the Bike Month website?
It's in the Google Drive. I don't think I have sent it. I've shown
It's in the
it to
Google Drive,
people. Yeah,
okay.
it's in
Because
the
he was
Google Drive,
working
yeah.
on updating our website today, and so I want to make sure he gets everything there. So go
Yeah.
take a look and see.
I can send it to I can send it to Tom. And one last announcement, I can say that since I saw the walkability checklist, I am working with a student on a walkability audit of the campus. We are going to be using it's called MAPS tool, which is microscale audit of pedestrian safety, developed by a professor in UCSD, that's University of California, San Diego. We are it's still in the planning process. I've just found out that I have a student now, so I'll start working on developing a scoring system, and this is part of a project where I will develop a walking master plan for the university in hopefully 2 years. So yeah, that's the data collection. I'm hoping it will start in October, or it will happen in October. I think the training of volunteers will probably take a couple of weeks. There will be a lot of volunteers, and the data collection will go it'll take a long time. It may take more than a month for the volunteers to collect all the data. And yeah, so that's my.
Also, I emailed at the end of the last meeting, you mentioned that a bunch of bike lanes were being pulled from campus, but the update that you gave me was?
Yes, so about the abandoned bike paths, they were included in the campus bike plan that was published in 2014 already. So it's not any bike path that was there that we are just taking it off. It was planned to take off beforehand, and we are just doing it right now. So again, the bike path on 6th Street by Wohlers Hall, that has been taken off already, and 6th Street will have a sharrow from Pennsylvania Avenue to Gregory Drive, and from Gregory Drive to Armory there's a bike lane. Similarly, on which other one has been taken off? The IBRL one, the Peabody bike path, right behind IBRL. A section of the bike path, as I had said, the section has been removed. It has been paved as well, they have poured concrete. So a section of that path will be a shared use path, and then the bikers can go back and use the remaining bike path in that section.
So I had a question. When you come off of the corner of Armory and Wright,
Yes.
and you're headed eastbound,
Okay, yes.
they have fixed the
Yes.
old
So-
nasty bike path there,
Yes,
but it's
yes.
not marked as a bike path.
And that's, I had a discussion about that today, and hopefully we'll have it striped in the next
Oh, good.
2 weeks.
Because people have no idea.
Oh yeah, I have
They're wandering around.
heard that comment, and it's been the paint shop. The paint shop is short-staffed by a lot of people actually. I think.
Spray chalk on it.
Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, so that's why they haven't been able to do a lot of these striping projects either. They were very late with striping university pavements as well. So, but they're telling me that in 2 weeks, the Armory bike path will be striped. And yeah, and the Sharrows on Pennsylvania and Sharrows on Peabody from 4th to 1st Street, and Sharrow on 6th Street from Gregory to Pennsylvania. These 3 will be Sharrows, and the Armory bike path will be striped as well. Yeah, and just to like finish off the all 4 bike paths, the Laredo Taft bike path that's by the Siebel Design Center, the newly constructed, that is going to be removed. That is going to be removed because there is a, I think, 8 or 10 feet wide sidewalk right next to it, which was meant to be a
On the
shared
other
use
side of the
path.
hedge?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
That's kind of rough. The spike one is, so
okay.
that'll be an improvement.
I'll check it out. That'll come up in the walkability audit. I'm sure it will. Yeah, but so that's coming off, and the Springfield Avenue bike path by Granger from by Granger Library. So by Granger Library.
It's already gone.
No, it's still there.
Oh.
It's still there. Like it's taking some time. That section is blocked off anyway. Like there's a closure there, so
I guess that's why I thought it was.
yeah,
gone.
that bike path will be gone in that section only. There will be like when I say that section, that is from Granger Library to Matthews.
Yeah, it's a bad spot.
Yeah. It was like in the campus bike plan, to increase connectivity, we had moved it up to the Beckman Quad area, connecting Clark Street to Main Street. Yeah. So these
Okay.
are the 4.
Sounds like there'll be a lot of fun stuff to explore this fall. New stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I biked on the Contraflow bike lane on Wright Street, southbound, and I was truly delighted because I don't remember seeing this in the plans that we have a left turn lane for bikes
Yeah.
at Armory,
Yeah.
and I thought that was.
Left turn, right turn. No.
It's a left turn, yeah, and the message that it gets to cyclists is that we're trying to take care of you and help you with, you're getting around on campus, and I appreciated the infrastructure is really nice. It's turned out nicely.
Oh, I also just remembered the bike shelter is finally here. It's installed. It's operational now. And yeah, it's finally here. Like it's done.
Where is this? Where
So
is it?
it's on. It's near the SDRP location by Flag Hall, between Flag Hall and Noble Hall, by 4th Street.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cost a lot more than they expected.
yeah, it was.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
want to get into that. Like it was a yeah. So anyway, that it's there, and we are just happy that it's done,
Okay.
and students can use it now, and they are using it actually. Like I was there were already like 6 or 7 bicycles. It can hold up to 96 bicycles, and it's a vertical bike rack with like a hook, and you can
So my electric cargo bike will not go on there.
Mhm. Other
unless you are very
announcements?
powerful, like you're strong enough to lift it up, and
Crystal Lake Park is going to have an open road event. Yep, pretty exciting. I just have a screenshot of it here, and I was checking their website. The Park District will close the park road to vehicle traffic on October 3rd and provide space for walking and rolling, as well as input opportunities on planning projects. So
this is part of their rollout of the new flow and traffic pattern
that is correct.
she's talked to us about before.
Correct. In the future, there are plans to transition the Crystal Lake Park Road into one-way for vehicles and provide more space for bicyclists and pedestrians to use the road. So there's an open road event. There might be something called a kiddical mass. A kiddical mass is, it would be, ideal if we had bike decorating and maybe there was going to be discussion about talking to someone who might know how to do a bike rodeo and different things. But at the moment, it's just exciting that that's happening, even though I don't see it on their website. But that's exciting.
Kara
so.
will probably be here next month. She can tell us more about it.
Yeah.
And the Prairie Cycle Club PCC tour.
that's right.
I'm begging the weather to cooperate. Is scheduled for this Saturday. We start out at Lake of the Woods and go up to Gibson City. I'm hoping people will want to go see a disaster, and so they'll pay $40 to ride up to Gibson City. But that's this Saturday.
Well, it'd be appropriate if it rained, I guess, to go see a flood.
No.
Any other announcements?
Well, since Kara's not here, I heard through the grapevine that the ITEP grant that they had applied for, that they were told their application was incomplete. They asked for that to be reviewed, and it was, and they were given the funding.
Oh, great.
So they will be able to make that connection for the bike path
And the bridge.
on the west side of
Broadway.
Thank you. Because I sometimes Race and Broadway get mixed up in my brain. Race goes to the boathouse. Over that bridge and then connect up to it'll take care of that one section that's not up to code and
Yeah,
too
that's
narrow. And I think the Forest Preserve also got funding for part of the Kickapoo Trail, that they had the same issue and it was reviewed and found that their application was complete. So that's super exciting news. I heard from Gabe at our Safe Routes to School Steering Committee meeting last week.
Very good. Yeah, we did submit a letter of support for the one in the Crystal Lake Park.
And I have a couple things with the Park District also. We had, in the last couple weeks, Champaign County Bikes volunteered and put on bicycle training education for the sports camp, the nature camp, and the arts camp for groups of children in the mornings over the last couple weeks. And the Bill Moyer's Boys and Girls and Boys Club.
Yeah, we did the Earn a Bike program then in the afternoons. So some people were doing double duty, camps in the morning and Earn a Bike in the afternoon. We had 4 students participate in the Earn a Bike
There were
class.
many parents who walked by, and also school administrators, I might mention too, program developers, program coordinators who asked what was going on and thought it looked fantastic. And we're hopeful that there will be more support for more bike education. It's amazing how little people realize that there's so much more to know than just get on the bike and go.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids really picked it up. It was fantastic to see them learning to stop and signal and scan behind, and they loved it. So it's
What ages were these?
the kids were from as small as 6 to about 10. So it was a little younger than would be ideal, but that's because of COVID. The camps and problems with hiring, the camps were smaller this year, so there were fewer older kids.
Mm-hmm.
But they got a lot out of it nonetheless.
Yeah. No, younger is
Yeah,
good.
I mean it's the first exposure for a lot of them. They were all able to ride, but
Great.
Yeah, the Don Moyer students are teenagers. And some of that's posted on the Safe Routes to School website. And Thomas and I were completing our report up today. I can share it with all of you if you're interested once we get that finalized. And that'll be on the website too.
Okay. Future topics? I think next month we'll definitely have the equality discussion again.
We'll probably need to talk about Vision Zero a little bit too, if the mayor has a letter ready and all of the other stuff.
And then bike month will be, well, we'll be in the middle of it by then, so it won't be too much to talk about then.
I'd like to at some point talk about, Urbana has 25 bike racks that can be installed. I believe it's 25. I'm using my memory, which isn't always the best, but, so I would like to talk about how we can figure out the best 25 places for those bike racks to go. I mean, I know Riggs would love some bike racks. I actually just realized that VO Bike might actually know the best places for 25 bike racks. I don't know. I mean, like if you have bikes that are constantly in places that need a rack, I don't know. That's the discussion. The discussion is, if there are 25 bike racks, how can we figure out the best way to get them, help the city figure out where to put them? That's the question.
Okay. Discussion on bike racks, city policy.
It's more of a location, the city has them and the city's happy to install them. Because the previous policy was that the business owner would have to install them, but the city actually said they would be willing to install them. So it's more a question of, there's 25 bike racks.
So you want list of businesses to approach to get them to install bike racks?
Yeah, like
Okay.
what would be the best way to figure out 25 places to figure this out? Yeah.
Maybe that's something we could add to the wiki maps.
Yeah.
Other future topics? Sounds like we probably have enough for next month, but anything like that on people's mind? Okay. Nope. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. It's been a good meeting. This meeting's adjourned.